Welcome back to the Jane Austen 250th anniversary block of the month sew along. I'm Cindy Cloward, and today we are working on the Berkshire block. It's pronounced Berkshire or Berkshire in the US, but in the UK, they pronounce it Berkshire, kind of like a barking dog, Berkshire. So however you pronounce it, we're glad you're here because we're ready to work on this block. I did want to highlight last month's block, the bath block. I've got all my blocks complete. I hope you do too. If not, I hope you keep on working, keep on appliquing, and then get ready to work on this block. So Jane Austen association with Berkshire was her schooling at the Reading Ladies Boarding School, where she attended for 18 months starting in 1785. Most of us are introduced to Jane Austen's works in school, so it seemed fitting to name this block Berkshire in the county where she attended school. So let's get started on this block. You've already downloaded the pattern, and the instructions for the Berkshire block are on pages 23, 24, and 25. Everything you need to know to make these 4 different blocks is located there. Let me just show you block number 1 is here. Block number 2, that's what block number 2 looks like. This is block number 3, and I've already worked on this, so I'm ready to go with instructions for you. And I'm going to assemble block number 4. And I've got my pieces laid out on this design board. Again, this is kind of a skill building series, so you can go back to previous videos, but I've already showed you how to make the bias tape using the bias tape maker. And you just have to cut your bias tape to 2 3/4 inches like the pattern calls for. We've previously done this shape prior to this block, and these are the 3 new shapes we're doing on this block. So this is very similar, this V8, to the oval shape in our bath block. It's just a little bit smaller. So I've gone ahead and made this shape. Again, I've sewn it very similar to before. I've trimmed it down, and just a reminder how to turn this inside out. An easy way is I put my middle finger there on one side and flip inside out. And I kind of do the same on the other side. So that's an easy way to turn your ovals inside out. There we go. Just kind of work around on that. We've done, like in the last bath video, I go in a little more detail of how to work that oval. So that's how we do our oval shape. I am going to give that a little bit of a press in just a minute. Okay, the next 2 shapes, this is this V25. It is this flower here behind the circle. And then we've got this flower shape right here. This is V17. So just a little bit different shape. So I'm gonna sew these on camera for you. And we'll just take it over to our machine. Again, my stitch length is 1.85 because I'm using a 60 weight thread. And so it's a fine, high quality Egyptian cotton thread. And I just have a little tighter stitch length, and it's really excellent for these curves. So I'm gonna start, again, I never start exactly on a curve, but there's a lot of curves here, so I just start on the top of this arch right there. Again, you're gonna get pretty good at sewing these so simple shapes. Just moving around the curve and just slow down, and you can kind of pivot as you're going around these tight curves. Just kind of ease around that curve right there. Going into that cleavage here. If it feels like you're not going to, if you're gonna miss the mark on the cleavage, you can, and I hit it right, actually, I almost hit it right on. You can just adjust that. You can adjust your stitch length to be a little tighter if you need to get in that cleavage where you marked it right there. or you can manually do it by adjusting your fabrics. Okay, don't backstitch. Reminder just to go over a few of your stitches. This one's ready to go. And again, these are tight prints, so you don't have to really worry about fussy cutting or getting the right design underneath it. Let's start on this curve right here. Right there, okay, pivot. So those cleavages, you just are going to leave that needle in and pivot your fabric around the needle. But sometimes it's not a hard pivot, but you make adjustments as you're going around the curve with the needle in the fabric and the interfacing. Okay, now we trim down to 1/4 inch. Sometimes I do slightly less, but you don't want to get too close to those threads. But you get very close to the threads when you're doing the cleavage. Okay, last one. You know the drill. Make a little X inside the interfacing, on the inside of the interfacing, away from your fabric, and then I just take that middle finger again and pull those curves out. Okay, I think it needs a little bit of a press. And that press will just heat up those stitches and that fabric so you can work that fabric a little bit more and try and make those curves really nice. Okay, that looks nice. That's ready to go. Same thing for this little shape. Okay. Again, just clip on those curves, and you don't have to do it on the outside curves. This one I kind of like do a little clip up into each of those little arches there, those little curves there. And then pull each of those out. 1, 2, 3. Just allows me, again, reminder, I go on the interfacing side first, and that's where I push the hardest, and I push a little less on the fabric side, but I work both sides of that seam, and that seems to work out, right? To work out really well. Okay, that's ready to go. I am gonna just give that a press. Now this oval I made is a little lumpy. I've got a lot of little pokies there. I'm gonna try and work it with and smooth those out, but a lot of the smoothing I'm gonna be doing with my, when I applique it on. And you can roll it a little bit. And that's going to be good to go for now. Oh, I'm going to put my So Simple shapes to the side. And I haven't done this quite yet, but you know the drill for these background fabrics. We're going to press them in half, half again, and then in half again. And it's perfectly okay to give it some steam, mist, to get those creases really deep. Okay, we pressed our background fabric, and those markings are going to help us lay out this block. I have used this Trim-It ruler to mark the outside if that's helpful for you. This is such a compact block, I don't think I need to mark my edges to make sure I get everything on the inside, so I'm not doing it this time. We can start assembling this together. You can put this button on later, but first let's do this piece right here. Okay, so the flower is kind of on the diagonal, so the cleavage parts are going on the diagonal. So you can put your button in now if you'd like, and then you start putting your stems in there. And you only need about 6/8 of an inch showing here, so you can push the stems in quite a bit, like that. Okay. At this point, if everything is looking good and lining up, I would recommend you start tacking down your pieces and your stems. I think it's easier to do it in stages. So you could sew this on, applique that on prior to laying this down, but it's not that big of a deal to applique it on this little piece, so I'm going to put little dots of glue, again, around, avoiding my edges. And that's on there. Now I'm going to just kind of lift that up a little bit and do my stems. You can, oh, you just want the teeniest of teeny little drops of glue right there. Okay, that's looking good. Now you can do your little drops of glue there. Again, just making sure that's shifted this way and it is centered both ways. Just checking that again. Okay, that's looking good. I think this is the first time I've taken you through just glue assembly before I've laid everything out, so this is just helpful to do it in this order. Okay, now that those are tacked down, we can do our flowers. And this shape is going towards the flower. And just a reminder that, well, we only want about 6/8 of an inch showing, so just make sure that's. Oh, and you want that stem in the cleavage, so make sure that stem is in that little cleavage, and this is the time to be adjusting that. Okay, 6/6, I think I already measured that. Okay. that stem right there. Just kind of recheck that. And while that glue is still wet, you could just fold it back, make sure that's centered. Okay, looking good, right? Okay, the next thing we can put on these little leaves, they kind of just sit in the middle. Right there between the bottom of the flower. And this is about the time I'd probably get out this ruler, line it up on my marked lines, seeing how everything is coming together. And it is looking good. You just want to make sure they're even across. You can adjust. Why that glue is tacky, you can adjust that. Oh, even there, even there. Adjust that slightly. That was looking good. So let me just do our stems. Our leaves. Okay. Looking really good. Now we're going to do these little button ovals at the top, very similar to what we did in that bath block. I don't like it too high or too low. It's just a little pop over the top of the flower. So that's an easy adjustment. I'm going to do just 4 little. There we go. Again, before I let this completely dry, I'm just taking a look. Everything looks really good. It's lined up. There's just a couple adjustments to be made before you let it dry. A reminder, you can just grab one of your large clappers. If you got this one, this is great for this project. And you can just let it sit for a couple hours or overnight, and it's going to be ready to applique very soon. So I'm going to put this to the side here, and I'm just going to talk through appliquing this block here. So this is another block in this series, so you've been appliquing a while, or machine applique. Again, just a reminder to choose really close matching threads to what you're using for the best results. I would suggest appliquing this button first if you haven't already added that, and then I would sew this outside flower here, and then I would work on the stems and the flowers and the leaves. So I would probably start with the leaf here, or you could start with the stem, just a couple stitches here, go around the leaf, sew here, and then sew up and around here. So, and then I would work on this flower and the button. Just a real quick refresher on applique. I've already knotted my needle. How you can roll this up like this. Give you nice access. I always start from the behind. Again, there's not too many layers. I'm gonna roll that like that. There's not too many layers that you can't just start appliquing this on. And then just a reminder, you advance your threads in the back, and sometimes I'm not going all the way to the back. Sometimes I'm mainly just picking up that top layer, but if it touches your finger, then you're grabbing the back. So sometimes you can feel the little prick of the needle in the back and just advance. Again, I'm just really taking the smallest bite, going right next to it, just hiding those stitches. It does take a little more effort to push through, so sometimes I use my nail on that. And we're just gonna sew completely around. There we go. Till we're all the way around. Now I did want a reminder that these ovals are a little harder to sew, so you're gonna have more pokey edges out around that oval, and so that's gonna take a little more effort to make a beautiful smooth oval. So I'll just show you that real quickly. Let's try, this one has a few more poked edges. I do get going from the back side, and I tend to start on the top. And just working around the top there. And I'm going along, and that feels pretty good. But I know I'm coming up to a part of the oval that needs a little more work. So as I'm coming to it, I get a little bit closer to it, and then I'm just gonna pull the edge underneath slightly with that needle tip, using my thumbnail to keep it down as I sew across it, to just smooth out that edge. Hopefully you can see that and understand what I'm doing. And even if you go into the red, I'm going enough on the edge that you are gonna hardly see my threads there. Again, this pink part would have already been sewn. Just want to show you this oval, because the tighter and the smaller the shape, the more that sometimes you have to finesse your applique. Oh, here we go. We're gonna just knot off on the back. And that's looking really good, that oval. And I just knot off a couple times underneath that petal. And that is good to go. Did want to show you my finished block. See how pretty that looks together. We'll press it later. And that's how you do the Berkshire block. You got 4 of these blocks to work on, and you've got all month long to work on these blocks. So finish up your Berkshire block and join me next month for the London block. I'm going to give you a look at the London block. Here is the London block. Isn't that beautiful? There's a lot of little teeny circles. Now there's an opportunity to fussy cut if you wish. This one is not fussy cut, but this is going to be a fun block to work on. So join me next time for the London block on the Jane Austen Block of the Month Sew Along.